Mau is an ugly, disgusting loser who somehow got the job of Demon King in the land of Ente Isla. But after a thorough ass whooping from the great hero, he teleports to our world, powerless and desperate for a job. As he evolves into a food service queen, he runs into the mighty hero from his old world. But before that happens, in the Great Sea lie 5 islands that make up the realm of Ente Isla. The human-occupied lands are spread out on all 4 sides like a compass, with the demon realm on the big rock in the middle, looking like an Amazon distribution hub. The gods are said to be protecting them, but Satan himself is waging an aggressive land grab, trying to expand the demonic suburbs in all directions. He dreams of peace and prosperity for all demon kind, with fair wages and a stable economy. To that end, his 4 top generals start cleaning house and slaughtering humans like a hot knife through butter, rapidly taking over the whole of the territory. But at the darkest hour, when all seems to be lost, a great hero arises, almost out of nowhere, and begins to push back. In a matter of a few days, the holy team takes back 1 island, and then 2 more. They then converge on the central island, and bring the battle to Satan's doorstep in his own castle. The final battle takes place in the Great Demonic Hall. Satan is in disbelief that the tides of war have changed so dramatically. One of Satan's useless generals, Alciel, returns to fight alongside the Dark Lord, blasting away at the spellcasters. But before they can regroup, the hero launches an attack and lops off one of Satan's horns. He wisely decides to stage a retreat, and after a lame speech of defeat, threatening his return, the 2 disappear into a rather sus-looking portal. These 2 idiots find themselves in a dark, noisy alley in modern Japan, with no idea of what's going on. In the process of trying to figure out where they are, some cops pull over wondering why grown men were cosplaying on the street. One of the officers tries to question the freaky men, but the demons can only speak Nazi. It causes a complicated one-sided conflict which leads to Alciel crashing out. The officer tries to calm him down and guide him to a station, but Alciel instantly pulls away, preparing to cast a magic attack. He strikes a pose and shouts out a spell, but instead, he loses 10 million aura. He only manages to pull off a scene cringing out the officers and scaring mothers with their babies. He's shamefully taken away to the station with the Demon King, who hides his face in embarrassment from association. At the station, the pair are split up, leaving the Demon King alone with an officer in the interrogation room. The officer offers him noodles so long as he cooperates, but Satan can't understand a single word he says. The Demon King decides to hypnotize the officer to understand him, a magic trick that actually works this time. After getting the officer to give him information about Japan, Satan leaves to get Alciel. But he's disappointed by his commander, who was shamelessly caught wolfing down the food the officer presented him. His homie was just a few more spoonfuls of noodles away from spilling the tea.
I can't help myself. I like good food, okay?
The Demon King hypnotizes the second officer before informing Alciel of the information he retrieved from the other. He explains how society works in a Japanese Nazi hybrid language, which Alciel struggles to understand. He also makes it clear to Alciel that the only way they can survive is to adapt to their new lives and regain the magical power they lost when they got transported. So they leave the station and head into town cluelessly in their goth cosplays. At a zebra crossing, Alciel gets confused by colors, causing him to unnecessarily flip out, leading to another cringe scene. Surprisingly, a coincidence makes it seem like his magic attempt worked, as a cab pulls up asking the demons to enter. When they get out, they stay under a bridge like the brokies they are, and plot a steady life path they hope will help them regain their status as great figures from Ente Isla. Walking around the city with their weird cosplays like it was WeedCon, they navigate around with the hypnotized officer's advice. They start off by going to a ward office, where they procure identity and resident cards to make them blend into society easily. They move on to a bank where they create an account with the money the Demon King, now called Mau, lifted off of the cop from the station. Then finally, they decide to find a base for their operations. After getting to the real estate agent's place, Mau manages to mumble some Japanese. The agents respond awkwardly in confusion, and Alciel, who is impressed by his king's attempt, begins to glaze Mau. After composing themselves like kids who were trying to convince adults they were responsible, Mau and Alciel tell the real estate agents their budget, leading to one of their biggest disappointments in the new world, an apartment at a rundown building. Although they were whining about the poor look of the house and how it looked like a horse's stable in comparison to the castle they lived in before. However, they accept the house and its terms. Thereafter, the real estate agent introduces them to a high cholesterol ambassador. It's their landlady, and she gives off the aura of someone ready to ingest the weirdo cosplayers together if they fail to come up with rent.
Anyhow, I am out.
That night, the pair talk about how they will replenish their magic back to its normal state. But all of a sudden, Mao drops unconscious. After getting rushed into an ambulance and coming to, he learns that as a human, he actually needs food to keep his body running.
Yeah, no shit, Sherlock.
Thereby causing them to quickly revise their plans, and the pair switch their priorities to finding a job. Within minutes, they procure the Forbidden J-word application and fill in their new names Mao and Shiro. A month passes by, and they've now adapted better to their situation, as they speak better Japanese than the garbled junk they struggled to utter before. They are also now capable of feeding themselves, to the surprise of everyone. Shiro, formerly known as Alciel, however, has a problem with Mao and his spending habits. He claims Mao wastes money on unimportant things like girls, leading to a minor argument about the necessity of their fridge, washing machine, and a few other things. After this Teen Titans Go Cast argument about finances, Mao decides to ignore Shiro and get to work on his new bicycle. Before he can zoom off, he's called back to get his umbrella from Shiro, which he reluctantly does. He collects it from his roomie and rides away, which luckily for him, pays off as it rains. At a stop, he comes across a sexy girl like nothing they ever had in hell who is standing helpless in the rain. Thinking it's an immaculate riz, he gives her his umbrella and races off to work, telling her she can keep it. At work, he unleashes a completely new persona totally unlike his uncouth, usual domineering Demon King self. He's surprisingly a model employee, similar to a knockoff SpongeBob. He helps customers and his useless coworker, who can't help but to be terrible at everything. He'd also successfully earned the Employee of the Month in his first month at this low-budget McDonald's. Shiro, on the other hand, is unemployed, just like you. He's forced to spend his days researching magic for himself and Mao, hoping it can lead to a path home. At Walmart McDonald's, Mao's coworker complains about how she's forced to do only small tasks due to her complete uselessness. When Mao tries to console her and say otherwise, their general manager pops up, complimenting Mao and reminding the little worker just how incompetent she was. After some unnecessary drama later on in the day, Mao is in the wrong place at the wrong time as the fryer fails while he uses it. When the general manager calls him to the office, he thinks he's cooked. However, he's hit with the biggest surprise of his life since the embarrassing loss at Inte Isla. He's given his second promotion at McDonald's, making him an A-rank employee.
That sounds like a job I want.
He joyously leaves work in the evening and comes across the cute girl he gave his umbrella. After an awkward conversation that reveals this girl is a talented stalker, Mao is hit with yet another big surprise. The girl in front of him is the great hero he embarrassingly lost the war to, Emilia. The cowardly Demon King quickly retreats after he's defeated by a mere girl with a big, cool sword. That was the scene when Emilia last saw Mao's ugly face. He had changed from a powerful king to a mere washed-up SpongeBob in that time. She's disappointed that he took her put the fries in the bag gesture literally and brings out a weapon in anger. However, her attempt to give Mao a poke or two is unsuccessful, as she's only holding a measly butter knife.
Drop the butter knife, bitch.
Mao is confused by her weird knife and asks her where her special holy sword is. Emilia, who's embarrassed by the question, immediately changes the topic by reminding Mao he's a Walmart McDonald's worker. She then charges at him with her cutlery knife, coincidentally giving Shiro, who was miles away, a minor shock. The has-been demon commander remembers he put rice on fire and wonders what Mao was doing out so late. A few minutes later, Mao and Emilia are arrested for causing a public disturbance by fighting on the street. Although Mao tries to explain himself, Emilia complicates matters by yapping like a problematic girlfriend. The cop, who already assumed the pair were a couple, scolds Emilia for pulling out a weapon even though it was harmless. He warns her that a breakup is no reason to get violent, then lets the pair go free without a warning. Outside the station, Emilia is upset that she was assumed to date the hideous Mao. The Demon Lord is upset as well, but he's more bothered by Emilia and her crazy threats, which make it seem like she was the actual Demon Lord. Before splitting, Emilia reminds Mao that she'd be watching him to see what bizarre antics he's up to. The next day, Emilia returns to her new normal as a customer care agent. After work, she buys groceries, does her laundry, then eats dinner. But after remembering Mao was free in the world, she crashes out, thinking about what mischievous things he's up to. Later in the night, while at his apartment, Mao and Shiro whine like kids about eating vegetables. They discuss how far they had fallen off from living like rich kings to living like brokies. Suddenly, their doorbell rings and a weird, familiar voice asks to come in. After confirming it's the great hero Amelia, Shiro is spooked that they've been followed by the hero. He bolts all the locks on the door and asks Mao how long he's known about the psychopath outside their apartment. Mao begins to tell the attentive Alciel about his first isekai meeting with Amelia, who happens to be causing a scene right outside. The pair believe the hero has humiliated herself enough and unlocks the door. After getting in, Amelia wails while accusing the demon pair of bullying her. After getting that out of her system, she wipes her tears and begins to troll the demon lord and his underling, calling them flops and broke bums. She then explains that the only reason she's with their sorry ass is because she was the only one who successfully passed through the portal after them. The demons look at her in pity, attempting to console her. However, she reminds them of their poor financial state. They are furious at her insulting remarks, and Mao begins to yap. He explains his plan is to gradually progress in the world with money till he can eventually rule everything.
Hey, listen. I used to think like you too.
His plan sounds so cringe, Amelia decides to leave the demon's apartment, not wanting to become corny like the residents. She bids her enemies farewell, as she has work in the morning, then reminds them she's constantly on the lookout for their misdeeds. The next day, after she's done with her work, Amelia rejects a dinner invite from her coworker, claiming she had plans. Little did anybody know, she had decided to become a part-time stalker and camped outside the demon's home like a Call of Duty player.
Yes! Yes! Happy birthday, motherfucker!
Although she finds out the demons aren't up to any mischief, she rejects plans again the next day and continues her night shift as a stalker. It was fruitless once more, as the demons were off to a shopping mall, but Amelia's resolve was unshakable, as she was sure there would be trouble afoot the next day. She repeats her routine once more, and it finally seems like it'd pay off. Mao and Shiro are in a rush to get somewhere urgently, so Amelia follows closely behind them. However, once again, her efforts and assumptions are off, as the pair simply rush for a dip in the public hot tub. On what seems to be the final day of her creepy new endeavor, she simply sits outside Mao's apartment and disappointedly eavesdrops. She expects to hear evil plans, but instead, she's stuck listening to sus sentences and the disgusting sound Shiro makes while chewing. Meanwhile, on the inside, Mao and Shiro have no idea that they're being stalked. They continue their casual conversations about being poor, as Shiro laments about Mao's spending habits once again, like a nagging wife. The next day at the knockoff McDonald's, Amelia drops her creepy fan act and faces Mao head-on. She asks him to follow her outside for a chat, but Mao, who wants nothing to do with the freak, pretends he doesn't hear her and asks for her order. For every attempt to start a fight Amelia tries, Mao smiles as he interprets her words as orders. He ends up sending her off with a $1 menu McBurger, wondering why she won't just let him be. Chiho, who saw the weird interaction between the pair, asks Mao if Amelia was his ex, and Mao immediately denies it. Unfortunately for him, he might not beat the allegations, as Amelia resumed her creepy phase.
Stop it. Get some help.
After work, Chiho prepares to leave and bids Mao goodbye. When she mentions how intense the earthquakes in Japan have been, Mao is shocked. He's surprised to hear an earthquake was so bad that it ruined her place because the only earthquakes he has felt were weak. He wishes her a safe trip and wonders if she had a crazy stalker who rummaged through her house in the guise of an earthquake. He's soon reminded that he ought to look after himself before others, as his own crazy stalker ambushes him on the street. The used-to-be great hero Amelia interrogates Mao by dropping questions like a machine gun. She asks how the once great demon ruler has become a hot tub-loving, cucumber-eating discount shopper. She doesn't believe that he took her "put the fries in the bag" chant after defeating him at Inte Isla so seriously. Mao answers the questions by assuring her he wasn't out of the fight yet, but simply looking to build up his status from scratch to become great again. The archenemies glare at each other, but they're suddenly interrupted by a mysterious pink light that damages Mao's bicycle. While Mao laments, Amelia tries to calm him down, but another series of shots comes flying. After jumping onto each other like they were involved in a different type of action scene, The other worlders finally remember they have legs and immediately seek cover as more mysterious shots come in. After successfully escaping the weird attack, they decide to go their separate ways to maintain a lower profile. Or at least, that's what they thought for the first few minutes. Emilia has once again arrived in front of Malu's house, making it seem like she truly is a stalker. She shyly pleads with him to allow her stay over because she lost her wallet while running Ereiler. Malu thinks about it for a bit, then agrees to let her in, as long as she doesn't cause any trouble for the creepy landlady. He also warns that she shouldn't get any freaky thoughts just because it was a demonic home. Although Alciel was against it at first, he eventually lets Emilia in, demanding she thank Malu for his mercy. They give her a place to sleep and a blanket, then head to bed themselves, where they can't help but pity the poor has-been hero. Just before he sleeps, Mawu receives a weird text message warning about earthquakes.
Earthquake?
He writes the message off as one from a loony, then reads a message from Chiho claiming she's being forewarned about more earthquakes. Mawu can't process all this, but he can't be bothered by bizarre messages right now. The next morning, the demons ironically wake up to a breakfast prepared by the hero. Shiro tastes it first to confirm there's no poison and ends up acknowledging that Emilia is a decent cook. They see their key on the ground and realize Emilia threw it back through the window after locking it from outside. When Shiro claims he believed it was stupid, Mawo asks what he would have done instead. The old demon commander explains that he would take the key home with him, reminding Mawo that Shiro was not his most intelligent demon commander. Meanwhile, at her home, Emilia continues to feel humiliated about the night before, ashamed that she needed the Demon King's help. She continues her day in regret till she sees a news segment about the incident from last night. After seeing Mao's bike, she hopes there are no unnecessary hitches and begins to prepare for work. Meanwhile, at her home, Chiho's head was in the clouds as she convinced Mao to go on a date with her on their day off. After being admonished to go about town carefully due to the recent rise in crime, Chiho goes to prepare for school. Later in the day at work, Emilia chats with her customer service friend, Rika. She rejects yet another lunch offer, but this time she doesn't plan on stalking any demons. To escape further questions from her friend, she quickly picks up a call from a customer. Surprisingly, the caller seems to be a prankster. However, after hearing the mysterious man speak the gibberish they called language in their former world, Emilia responds and gets dragged into a weird convo discussing the Demon King and the Sacred Hero. When the weirdo ends the call, Emilia wonders who he could be and whether he was involved in the attack from last night. As if her week wasn't bad enough, while at work Emilia is called over by a station nearby for questioning. To the surprise of no one except the dumb otherworlders, Mawu was traced using his deserted bicycle from the crime scene. He decided with Shiro that they would get Emilia to testify for him, which she angrily did. After testifying, she crashes out at the demonic pair, calling them useless fuckwads without a brain cell between them. She begins to criticize them over everything for what seemed to be the 100th time, highlighting how broke, useless, and problematic they are. After lamenting and hurting Shiro's feelings, she leaves the station with Mawu. Before splitting, she declared war upon him, calling herself the great hero who would haunt him. Little did she know, she had now accumulated negative aura and made a fool of herself in front of passers-by. She awkwardly left, leaving Mawu with Shiro, who was breaking down from her harsh words. Later that day, Chiho gets back from school and prepares for her date with Mawu. On the other hand, Mawu is out shopping for good clothes with Shiro, who finds his current dress sense appalling even for a hideous demon. They browse through a dollar store clothing line and eventually find Mawu a cheap suit Shiro thought would do. Minutes later, the date kicks off when Mawu meets up with Chiho at a park. She shyly asks him to hold her hand as they walk, and Mawu, who is oblivious to what it means, ignorantly accepts. While at a restaurant, a familiar face spies on the pair. Shiro was concerned about his master, wondering why he agreed to the date in the first place. Coincidentally, Emilia was in the area as well, and she happened to see the demon acting all sus. She ambushes him and asks what he's doing poking around like a low-budget detective. After finding out about Mawu's date, she almost goes Super Saiyan with rage, forcing Shiro to give an explanation. After hearing about how the date came about, Emilia takes a long look at Chiho and realizes this innocent girl with the huge cannons has fallen in love with a demon. She decides to reignite her stalker phase and forces Shiro to follow her into the restaurant. In the restaurant, Mawu and Chiho are having a conversation about the earthquakes. Chiho explains that she had been hearing strange voices in her head warning her about earthquakes in an awful gibberish language. It also told her about an earthquake called the Big One, which was coming, slowly confusing Mau. After thinking deep, Mau realizes she's hearing sonar waves from another world via a magic trick which also causes earthquakes. Before he thinks about the Big One, he's surprised to see the meddling hero once again, stalking him on his date. The surprises didn't end there, as his dumb commander Shiro walked into the restaurant as well, reeking of trouble. He composes himself and ignores the two otherworldly bozos, then proceeds to advise Chiho. He tells her not to worry about it, and instead she should create an awareness of earthquakes. Stunned by Mau's kindness, Chiho attempts to confess her feelings. Just before she can stutter the words, Emilia charges in, halting the possible rejection. It instantly switches from a cringe rejection scene to a corny love triangle battle, as the girls take jabs at each other. They shamelessly fight over the demon, who could barely understand anything that was happening. Suddenly, the Big One starts, causing a major earthquake that lays waste to the restaurant. When the girls get up from under the rubble, Mao is nowhere to be found. They completely forget that they were fighting over a guy just seconds ago and introduce themselves. After confirming she was fine, Emilia puts Chiho to sleep. She then tells Mao he can come out from his hiding spot, presenting the hideous Demon King form he had in Entei Isla. Although she's shocked by the form, Emilia is more confused and irritated by the fact that the terrible Demon King was using his mighty power to move the rubble and help people. An hour later, the National Emergency Management arrives and gets to work. Emilia, who had been dug out of the rubble, was lost in thought. She remembers growing up as a naive girl with her father when she heard that the northern and eastern islands were seized by the Demon Lord's army. Although the traveling merchant who told them about it predicted the west, where they lived, would be next, Emilia rejected the idea. She believed they were safe because her father told her so and gullibly affirmed the merchant too. The next day, some saints appeared in front of her home and met with her father. Emilia was to be taken away to a faraway place for training, leaving her in pain as she couldn't believe it. Her father bid her farewell and informed her she was the daughter of an archangel, so the safety of humanity was in her hands. Days later, she arrived at her training location, where she was surrounded by multiple old priests. When they asked if she was ready to take responsibility for humanity as the half-archangel, Emilia steeled her resolve, ready to eliminate the monstrous demon lord. Back to the present, she's snapped out of her thoughts by Mau, who confirms she is unharmed. She sees he's transformed from monster form to his pathetic weed form and asks him how. While Mau tries to think about the answer, they're interrupted by Chiho, who has now woken up from Emilia's sleeping spell. Mau pats her head, causing her to blush and groan all awkward. It catches the attention of a cop, who recognizes her as the police inspector's daughter. Mau remembers the officer's name and recalls that it was the first officer he hypnotized after his isekai. After ending her conversation with the officer, Chiho meets up with Mau and requests he leave so her father doesn't find out about the date. Mau understands and leaves the scene alongside Emilia. They meet up around the corner where Mau explains that he is probably the reason Chiho could hear the otherworldly echoes. He assumes the hypnosis spell he cast on her father when they met rubbed off on her, leading to her new mystic powers. They now confirm that a third party who retained magic from Entei Isla was in their world and was coming after them. After realizing he now looks like he got run through a wood chipper, Mau decides it is time for them to go their separate ways. Before leaving, Emilia drops what could be her 10,000th threat to Mau, telling him she has her eye on him. After she left to meet her co-worker, who saw her in the news footage of the incident, Shiro pops up as well after ghosting. He's now in a more disturbed mental state than before, apologizing constantly to Mau as he believes he is incompetent. His scene was so corny, it gave Mau the eek just from looking at him.
Oscar, your stress sweat is getting all over me. Go take a bubble bath, have a latte, sip some chai tea. We'll hook up later. Here's my card.
Minutes later, at her friend's place, Emilia is offered tea. She was finally convinced to stop being a weirdo and spend some girl time with her friend. After they finish eating, the girls go into chit-chat mode, where Emilia's coworker decides to trauma dump her past on Emilia, talking about how she lost a special family member. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the city, Mau and Shiro have been arrested for public indecency. The demon commander's plea for punishment from Mau was overheard by passers-by, leading to someone calling the police. Luckily, the police assumed Shiro's show of S&M was just an acting trope. The next morning, Mao is visited yet again by the obsessed Amelia. She offers him a gift he tries to ignore, but after hearing it was a repayment for the money he loaned her before, he immediately collects it. When she asks where Shiru is, Mao explains he is burnt out after all that pointless drama last night. When she decides to leave, she trips over stairs and tumbles down to the ground, screaming all the way and waking up Shiro. A few minutes later, she's led into the apartment as the demons intend to bandage her up. Shiro trolls her for losing to the staircase, and when she attempts to land a troll of her own, Mao reminds her she's an angelic hero being helped by demons. Shiro realizes they're out of gauze and band-aids, so he rushes over to a nearby pharmacy to get some. While he's gone, Mao attempts to help Amelia with her injuries. However, she refuses. She rages out yet again, complaining about Mao has changed and how he is a different person. She refuses to believe this sorry, pathetic, low-budget SpongeBob is the demonic monster who raised her island and killed her father. She had to sit through so much trauma dumping the night before. She decides to unleash some of her own on Mao. Just then, Shiro comes back, but with an unexpected visitor. Chiho, who walks into the couple-like argument scene, feels betrayed, even though it's her fault for falling in love with the oblivious Mao. She runs away. However, before Mao and Amelia can chase after her to explain, a 5,000-pound shadow appears on the floor. The Big Mac monster, Mickey, who also happens to be Mao's landlady, witnesses the scene and decides to drop words of advice. She assumes Amelia is his girlfriend and Chiho is a side piece, leading her to give awful takes about how Mao should handle the issue. Although she was uttering gibberish for the most part, she talked about the otherworldly echoes and earthquakes, leaving the listeners in confusion when she left. Meanwhile, in a mysterious portal, two odd creatures pass through, discussing in the weird Entei Isla dialect. They're on their way to Japan after sensing a weird magical sonar. Back in Japan, the distressed Chiho walks around wiping her tears. She accidentally bumps into a weird emo-looking guy who suddenly begins to babble. He says that with the despair Chiho felt from Mao, he will surpass the Demon King, confusing Chiho. His babble soon becomes the least of her issues, as the freak grows dark wings like a chimera and starts emitting an evil aura like Goku Black. He destroys a structure, gaining the attention of the demons and hero who were searching for Chiho. After coming close and checking out the new bad guy on the block, Mao realizes it's his old demon commander, Lucifer, who he thought died in the final battle. Amelia is stunned by the presence of Lucifer, while Mao is simply amused. She thought she had eliminated him in Entei Isla, remembering striking him through the heart while dropping her cliché, "You killed my father" line. When Amelia asks how he's alive, Lucifer refuses to answer directly, causing Mao to expose his commander. He points out the presence of another party in play, an archbishop named Orba. After getting exposed by Mao, the bishop removes the hood covering his son reflecting head and confirms the statement. Amelia is shocked by the betrayal and asks the bishop why he's working with the demon Lucifer. The old fart tries to act cool by being mysterious with his answer, but Mao quickly exposes him as a fraud. He explains that the bishop wants Amelia gone so he can gain power in Entei Isla, and just like a politician, he had fed Lucifer lies to get him working. When Orba asks how Mao figured out his plan, Mao tells him how obvious his plan was. The good guys actually being bad guys happens in almost every isekai. Mao begins to tease Orba about his bald head, rage-baiting the old, low-budget Master Roshi. After letting Mao cook, Shiro butts in, asking Mao how he knows about other isekais. It becomes an argument of deadbeat husband versus nagging wife till Lucifer interrupts by striking Shiro with an attack. He sarcastically mocks the demons for ignoring him and getting into a couple's quarrel. Shiro, who thought he was about to die, made his last words a demand for Mao to shop at discount stores more.
Are you serious right now, bro? Are you serious right now?
Although he was just broke shamed by his dying friend, Mao assures him they'd make it out alive. Lucifer has no chill, so he declares his next attack will be aimed at both Mao and Amelia. He flies into the air and spams multiple purple attacks, giving Dragon Ball Destroyer vibes as he destroys a lot of property and smiles over it like it's nothing. Orba tells him to concentrate on the targets, as they have not just blocked his attack, but then run away, too. The Demon King and Great Hero are running for their lives, almost ironic in a way. Amelia asks Mao how Lucifer retained strength while they remained powerless. He explains that Lucifer was drawing power from the fear and despair of humans. explaining why he got his freaky form in that one big incident. Their conversation is cut short by Lucifer, who pops up again in front of them, confirming what Mao said. He asks Mao why he didn't just put the world in despair so he could gain enough magic for Entei Isla. The Demon King admits he's fallen in love with his 9-to-5 and would prefer to leave it the way he found it. Lucifer laughs Mao's statement off as weak, saying he went all soft. He brings out his secret weapon, Chiho, who has been feeding him the most amount of fear and despair. The Demon King is stunned, but there's no time to react as Lucifer fires attacks again, forcing them to run. However, they're not fast enough, as Mao is shot through the arm. He's not out nor down, but he's now constantly whining about how appalling his human body is. Did I say he wasn't down? Sorry, I meant to say he wasn't down until the low-budget Master Roshi decided to bring a Glock to a magic fight. He shoots through Mao's leg, causing the Demon King to fall while the hero remains in shock. Lucifer gloats so much, he fumbles his win once again. His excess yapping gives Mao a chance to recover slightly and teleport himself and his group away from the otherworldly villains. They respawn at a populated area, which further confuses the already lost Emilia. They're immediately found by Lucifer once again, who's now agitated by Mao's antics. He sends Mao to the Donut Club just like Rengoku and Ace.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man.
Sealing what looks to be his win. Mao is now down for the count as well, meaning Lucifer doesn't need Chiho anymore, so he drops her from the sky. Emilia quickly rushes and catches the young high schooler, badly skinning her knees in the process. With the Demon King as a donut, Lucifer decides to boast one more time before launching his attack. Just before it all comes crashing down, Lucifer notices the bridge he blasted is still suspended in the air, while the hero remains unharmed. The Demon King is back this time with his muscle monster form, with just enough magic to hold up the bridge. He begins to aura farm in front of Chiho, who has just awakened, and Emilia. He urges Emilia to fight while he holds the bridge, but the foolish ex-hero initially refuses. After a failed attempt to aura farm of her own, she decides to get up and fight, applying a barrier to protect Chiho, then striking a pose. She begins to charge up like a Super Saiyan, and suddenly her hair turns white. Where was all this before the demon destroyed half the city? The Demon King then puts all the NPCs to sleep, allowing Emilia and the Ops to fight to their content. They start off by taking a little jab at Mao, then immediately get into their action scene. Shots are fired, fists are clashing, and adrenaline is at an all-time high, but the fight is swinging in Lucifer's favor. Surprisingly, another hideous demon pops up as well. This time it's Alciel. He's reluctant to do it, but he intends on helping Emilia defeat Lucifer. The bald fraud Orba attempts a sneak attack, but he's caught by the great hero. His partner Lucifer calls him out and asks him to fight like a man. It becomes a direct 2v2, which makes Mao jealous he's not involved. Cars are thrown, more shots are fired, and emotions are flying here and there. After seeing the fight wasn't coming to an end soon, Mao drops the bridge calmly, then joins the fray. His presence swings the battle in a completely new direction, as he instantly gets rid of Orba. He strikes so much fear into Lucifer. The Saitama punch he lands afterwards seems almost unnecessary. The battle ends with Lucifer in regret and swollen, sitting peacefully like a thoroughly disciplined child. They explain their history to Chiho, calming her down as they chat around like it's a post-battle epilogue scene. Just then, the mysterious couple from the portal appears, looking at the chaotic scenery in front of them. They rush to Emilia, who acknowledges them too, reuniting the old friends. It's Emeralda and Albert, two warriors who fought alongside her as the great hero. After a brief weird dialogue with Mao and Shiro, they follow Emilia away from the scene, telling her about how the priests and church went nuts. Entei Isla was now in a complicated state, just not as bad as when Mao was still around. Meanwhile, at the bridge, Mao decides not to use his replenished magic to return home, but rather to fix the damage his idiot disciple had done. When they get back to his apartment, he's shocked to see Emilia and her friends using the small place like it was theirs. Minutes later, the hero's friends return to their world, promising to keep in touch when needed. In the evening, at Walmart McDonald's, Mao and Chiho chat about everything that went down. In a sarcastic tone, Chiho wishes she could forget everything that happened, including her emotions. The clueless Mao, who still knows nothing about girls, says he could help her, causing her to get upset. In the heat of serious flames, with organs sizzling, Mao gloats at the fire cooking his prey. He thinks he's gaining aura, but instead, he's not just being cringe, but giving the couple at the table next to him the eek.
Look at this dude.
After a brief convo about balanced diets and veggies with Shiro, the pair are ready to leave. They consider getting takeout for their new roommate, but Shiro is against it because he believes Lucifer is a completely useless NEET who only wastes money online. However, Mao intends on taking responsibility for all his underlings, including the keyboard warrior. At a mysterious building in Inte Isla, a meeting was being held by the great powers of the Holy Church. They discussed the great hero and demon king being alive, and how news had reached them that the Archbishop Orba was a fraud. It becomes a complicated discussion when they debate how to deal with Mao and Emilia, not wanting the public to know they weren't dead. They decide to send the mysterious figure in a hood at the center to handle the situation. Back in Japan, Mao and Shiro arrive home to a yapping Lucifer who complains about food. His name is now Yurishihara, but that's too long to remember, so we won't call him that. After hearing Lucifer reject the noodles they brought him, Shiro scolds him, claiming he was a sorry ingrate. He's reminded his sorry ass could have either been left on the street or taken with Orba to a detention facility. Lucifer calmly holds his L with nothing to say, as he was now under Mao's roof. His duty is to find anything possible about magic in the world using their computer and internet. When Mao asks how Lucifer could prove he was good with a computer, the demon commander decides to show him what he's got. At Emilia's workplace, she's about to clock out when she gets her final phone call of the day. After she picks it up, she's fallen victim to yet another prank call. Mao, Shiro, and Lucifer fool around on the phone, disturbing Emilia at her workplace. After having enough fun, they end the call, leaving Emilia frustrated. Later in the day, at the knockoff McDonald's, Mao has a fun chat with Chiho about him being promoted once again. They're interrupted by Emilia, who charges in upset and demanding a chat with Mao. When he reminds her he's at work, she almost crashes out, remembering she was also at work when she got hit with their prank call. Chiho attempts to intervene, but her third wheeling is completely ignored by Emilia, who decides to wait till closing hours. At the apartment, the other two demons were closing in on more knowledge about magic in their world. Lucifer is the closest of the two, as the internet has led him to a possible magic zone in the area. Shiro arrives home and sees they have mail from the landlady, so he takes it up, hoping for the best. Later that day, at McDonald's, Mao wraps up his shift and is instantly met by the pesky hero. She asks him why he's hosting Lucifer, who almost killed him. Mao explains that he decided to have Lucifer over so he could lay low and keep out of trouble. They even went through the trouble of getting him an ID with a long Japanese name. Emilia warns Mao to keep his demons in check, then gloats about being able to return home, making Mao cringe. When Mao gets home, he opens the door and sees Lucifer out cold, making him panic. When he calls out Shiro, he realizes his second-in-command was in bad shape as well, increasing his tension. Minutes later, after the pair recover, Mao discovers they were hit by a dangerous letter. When he asks for the content of the letter, Shiro coldly informs him it was a vacation picture of their landlord. He's insistent the picture is capable of doing more damage to Mao than Emilia in her prime. After Mao claims he doesn't believe it, Lucifer dares Mao to take a look himself. But after seeing just the tip of that humongous iceberg, Mao switches topics. Although Lucifer shouts out fraud allegations, Mao refuses to look at the pic, knowing it would do more than send him into despair. They end the topic, then talk about possible areas of magic, where Lucifer informs them of a forbidden classroom in a nearby school. The next day, Mao and Shiro check out the school and realize there was no way in to reach the forbidden classroom. Luckily for them, Chiho, who was a student there, smells her crush through the window and waves, giving Mao an idea. He meets up with her at work later that day, then tells her about his quest to find the forbidden classroom, which she agrees to help with. Later that night, they sneak into the school with Chiho, who has enough knowledge about how they could get around. When Mao asks why she's confidently helping them, Chiho blushes as she expresses trust in him. Nobody except you and Mao could be dense enough to not see that green light. She then tells them of the 7 mysteries of her school: the strange walking figure, the creepy 3-eyed statue, the forbidden classroom, 3 others, and a 7th mystery which no one knew. She explains that no one knows about the last one because apparently, anyone who knew all 7 would run mad. Judging from how generic the rest were, it could most likely be toilet-bound Hanako, but who knows? The supposed to be powerful demons are ironically spooked by the stories, as Maui is freaked out when his phone rings. It was Lucifer, and he called to confirm how far the demons had gone in their search. After telling Lucifer it was still a steady search, Mau cuts the call and hears mysterious footsteps. The demons prepare to fight while protecting Chiho, but to no one's surprise, it's their crazy pink-haired stalker.
Oh no, not this clown again.
Emilia appears and drags the group to a classroom, where she explains how she obsessively followed them to the school. Mau is tired of his #1 fan, so with the help of Chiho, she's tricked into changing her shoes, allowing the group to run away. They rush into a classroom to hide, but Emilia follows them in. When she can't find them in the open, she strikes an anatomical doll like a lunatic, forcing the group out. It leads to a question of her morals, as Shiro asks why an alleged hero was out late at night destroying school property. The demons begin to gaslight her till she's almost broken, causing Chiho to make an excuse for her friend. While they continue their shenanigans, a mysterious caped figure watches the group from afar. Minutes later, the group gets to the building with the forbidden classroom and realizes the room wasn't so forbidden after all. The locks were broken, and the structures that made it seem shut were actually just figureheads. They enter the room and see it has hosted inhabitants, when coincidentally, Mau receives another call from Lucifer. They were on the topic of what a game controller was doing lying around. So when the foolish demon asks about it as well, it becomes clear as day. They get Lucifer to admit he and Orba opened a gate through that room and realize he used them to get his console back. The group leaves the school disappointed, but before they go, Chiho notices a strange open pack lying on the ground. The next day, Mau's disappointment follows him to work, but then he notices a letter on the table. When he opens it, he realizes Chiho had brought out the one from his landlady. It was already too late, as a picture of the hideous cholesterol ambassador in a bikini drains the life out of his body, making Chiho panic. Later that day, at their apartment, Shiro and Lucifer fight over the console. Shiro is being a mom about it and demanding Lucifer only use it 1 hour per day, but the other demon commander refuses. They suddenly hear a loud thud at the door, causing Shiro to rush out. Outside, Mau is welcomed home by a mysterious falling girl who lands into his hands in a kimono. He notices she's unconscious and wonders where she came from and what she was looking for. The next morning, Mau and Shiro hear a knock on the door with a weird accent, requesting to come in. They wonder if it's the girl from the night before, and no surprise, it is. Mau opens the door for her, and she introduces herself as Kamazuki. The demons introduce themselves as well, to be polite, and Kamazuki offers Mau noodles to thank him for the previous night. After preaching about fostering a good relationship between neighbors, she talks about the landlady. Although she's not met her, Kamazuki has high hopes, which Mau and the demons didn't want to ruin. However, when she brings up the topic of a picture from the mail, they instantly stop her from opening it, warning her of its dangerous content. After formally meeting her new neighbors, Kamazuki bids them farewell. Meanwhile, Emilia receives a package from Emeralda, who is still at Ente Isla. It's a drug called Vitamin Beta, and it has the ability to slowly restore her sacred power. Emilia is reluctant to try it, but she takes it anyway after hearing about the dosage from Emeralda. Some days later, she resumes her second part-time job, stalking Mau and his disciples, even in intense heat. She begins to realize how bizarre what she's doing is. But just before she can finally quit her stalker side hustle, she hears a weird voice. She looks into the apartment and sees the presence of a new face, who happens to be a girl. She sneaks into their apartment to get a better look at the group and confirms there was a girl in their midst. Shiro was knocked out due to the excess heat surrounding them, so Kamazuki tries to teach Lucifer how to do house chores. When Lucifer tells Kamazuki they've run out of ginger, she offers to help them get some from her pantry. Emilia is immediately forced to run away from the scene, and once again, she trips down the staircase, causing her to fall. Luckily for her, Mau arrives and catches her just in time before she crashes. Unluckily for him, it's Emilia, the unpredictable psychopath, as she, for no reason at all, kicks him in the head, causing them both to fall. A few minutes later, they are all in the house enjoying noodles, as Emilia introduces herself to Kamazuki. The obsessed hero realizes the new girl is just a neighbor, and not another otherworlder like them, but still refuses to apologize for causing a ruckus. After yet another argument between Mau and Emilia, Kamazuki asks if they were sour exes, a question lingering in probably everyone's mind. Emilia wastes no time in denying the allegation and insulting Mao. When she sees the relief in Kamizuki's face, she notices how similar it is to Chiho's reaction after finding out the exact same thing. She calls Kamizuki to a private part of the apartment and asks her straight up whether she's in love with Mao. The new neighbor confirms her assumption, confusing Emilia, who can't seem to get it. How does a pathetic, burger-flipping, has-been Demon King have so much riz? She advises Kamizuki to be careful around Mao and friends, then prepares to leave, remembering she has work to do. She gets to the steps again, and for what could be the fourth time, stumbles carelessly. However, she doesn't go all the way down and stops crashing at the halfway point, a new record for her. After the lunatic hero leaves, Mao apologizes to Kamizuki for whatever nonsense Emilia said and informs her he's off to work. He's given a bento lunchbox to take along with him, as Kamizuki bids him farewell. Later that day, Emilia receives a call from Emeralda. They talk about how vitamin beta is working and how much Emilia is keeping an eye on Mao. They also talk about Entei Isla and how much better it is without the Demon King causing battles. Speaking of the Demon King, Mao was now thrown into his first group battle with McDonald's. It is low-budget McDonald's versus low-budget KFC, as a new joint named SFC opened in the area, creating a fast food competition for their group. The manager of Mao's branch advises him to up his game like never before and prove he earned his promotion to shift manager. After getting that out of the way, she advises him to go take a lunch break. In the staff room, Mao meets up with Chiho, who is also having her lunch break. She sees him bring out his new humongous bento and asks if it was a new one gotten for him by Shiro. After hearing it's one a new female neighbor gave him, Chiho instantly unlocks her inner Emilia and starts to aggressively shake Mao. She questions him thoroughly about the bento while grabbing his collar like he was a cheating husband. She thought she had reached the peak of her rage after finding out it was handmade, but she totally loses it after seeing the heart shape drawn on the rice. Meanwhile, Emilia was out getting food from a convenience store. The goal is to creepily watch Mao and the demons again, so she barely has time to cook or look after herself. After buying her meal, she notices a strange figure burst into the store. The clerk at the time attempts to go after the suspicious man, but the psycho Emilia pushes him out of the way and charges after the man with her sword. She soon realizes her opponent is no joke, as he wields a scythe of his own and shoots lasers from his eyes. It was like watching a crossbreed of Homelander and the Grim Reaper fighting. After a clash of swords and a decent battle scene, the mysterious man fires Emilia's sword with a laser that neutralizes its sacred power. She's forced back and almost defeated, but the clerk Emilia believed would be useless in the fight manages to chase the attacker away with some paint balloons. She thanks him for his help and apologizes for any damage done, hoping to get away from the area and assess the situation. However, she's informed she can't leave by the clerk till the cops show up for an investigation. While alone, Emilia thinks about how much vitamin beta has boosted her sacred power. She's stronger than when she fought Lucifer, but she was still mysteriously outmatched by the mysterious man. Before she leaves the store, she gets a call from Chiho, who is still at the Walmart Mickey D's. Emilia is put on high alert after Chiho claims it's a code red situation. However, she's hit with one of the biggest disappointments of her life after finding out Chiho was just crashing out over a love bento.
Hey, nobody cares. Nobody cares. I need that room at some point, so just wrap it up.
The next day, Chiho arrives at Mao's apartment with Emilia by her side and confidence filling her humongous jugs. She marches up the stairs and tells Emilia there's no room for failure, as their duty was to win back Mao. You would think she had a foolproof plan after all that yapping. But immediately she sees Kamizuki. She freezes up like Olaf before meeting Elsa. Minutes later, she settles into the atmosphere better, and does nothing but glaze her rival in love. She compliments how the new girl does everything yes, even how she cut the vegetables. Mao and Emilia, who observe the painful scene, begin to wonder what could possibly be going on in her mind. Before long, their meal is ready, and everyone except Emo Kid has a seat around the table. He's relegated to eating on the side because they don't care much about him. The table is lively, with Mao explaining that they only require Kamizuki's help because Shiro is out of service. The new girl brings up the topic of her getting a job in the near future to help her properly get around. When Mao offers her a spot at Rip-Off McDonald's, the entire table is stunned by the audacity and density of the Demon King. After seeing how shaken Chiho is, the rest of the table manages to convince the newbie against it. She decides to think about the offer and look into other possible jobs. When the group engages in another round of discussions, they realize Kamazuki only has kimonos. Mao convinces his arch-nemesis to take her shopping for clothes. Kamazuki switches kimonos, then follows Emilia out, leaving the demons and Chiho in the apartment. Before long, Chiho is ready to leave as well. Shiro forces Mao to escort Chiho home, so the Demon King leaves the apartment as well. They take his new bike and walk along the path to Chiho's home while having a chat. Mao asks whether her parents are fine with her leaving the house so early to visit a guy's house. Chiho explains that although her father doesn't know, her mother approves of him, a message that doesn't get through Mao's thick skull. She takes advantage of the mood and begins to confess her love to Mao once again. But just like the demon he is, Mao fails to show compassion. The pair are interrupted when Kamazuki, who is walking close by, overhears the conversation and butts in. After realizing the kimono warrior heard all her cringe love nonsense, Chiho grabs Mao's bike and rides away in shame. With his old ball gone, Mao decides to escort his new one, Kamazuki, to the station. When the kimono warrior gets to the station, she apologizes to Emilia for wasting her time after forgetting her purse. She then asks Emilia about trains, confusing her guide who doesn't understand her question. Emilia asks how she moves around without trains, and Kamazuki informs her she only just arrived in this place. The hero is now more confused than ever, as she wonders if Kamazuki was a runaway village girl from Tokyo. However, it becomes clear to her where the misunderstanding came from when Kamazuki admits she came from Entei Isla. Did I say it becomes clear? Sorry, I meant the entire conversation flipped on its head after she revealed her secret. It turns into an argument of who was more misleading between the pair, as Kamazuki claims she already made it clear she was from Entei Isla. When Emilia realizes the conversation would become too long, she decides to talk with Kamazuki on her way to work. It becomes clearer with every turn that Kamazuki was not from that world or even from that era, as she struggles to understand anything they see. She can barely get past a ticket point, falls off an escalator, and is astounded by people on TV. It is so much of a bother that Emilia decided to sit her down at a restaurant to introduce her to basic things like phones and electricity. She finds out Kamazuki is a member of a Reformation cult from Entei Isla, who learned about Japan through books from the 40s and a few 90s culture magazines. When Kamazuki admits she wants to help Emilia get rid of Mao, Emilia tells her she doesn't trust her enough to work together, as she remembers Orba's betrayal. She leaves Kamazuki to navigate the city by herself and hands her a girly magazine so she can keep up with modern trends. At McDonald's, Chiho continuously apologizes for taking Mao's bike and running away. She leaves him to start his shift after he tells her for the 100th time that he wasn't upset with her. That day, knockoff McDonald's was completely beaten by Walmart KFC. The manager, Masaki, who is in Mao's shift, is extremely upset by how much their customers were reducing. She has a meeting with headquarters soon, and the last time a manager lost to a new food outlet, he was sent to Antarctica to suffer. She threatens Mao with the same fate and demands he come up with a solution so they can get back the business. In the next shift, it's Mao and Chiho, and they have a surprisingly weird-looking customer around. He walks in like he owns the place, then introduces himself as the manager of makeshift KFC. After gloating about his success for a bit, he takes a look at Chiho's gems, then goes bonkers. He flirtatiously makes an order, giving Chiho an eek she will never forget. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the city, Emilia and her friend Rika meet up with Kamazuki, who successfully went shopping. She explains how she sold some valuables to get money, then managed to open an account, giving her everything she needed for a successful outing. She then requests that Emilia take her to Mao's workplace for an important task. After hearing Mao, Rika begins to tease Emilia, asking who he was. It causes Emilia to reject Kamazuki's request. However, Rika doesn't budge and decides to take Kamazuki herself. Speaking of the devil, Mao is now officially frustrated by how much Walmart KFC was thrashing him in the customer battle. Emilia and her group arrive at the area and notice McDonald's is practically deserted, just like the Tokyo Ghoul fanbase. In contrast, Walmart KFC is booming, so Rika suggests the group head there to avoid a possible dry lovers' quarrel. The girls reluctantly agree and follow her into the restaurant, where it's buzzing all round. She walks up to the counter and meets the creepiest salesman she's probably ever met in her life, the manager. He gave her so many chills while she was taking her order, it felt like she had escaped prison when she left the counter. They pick a slightly quiet seat and prepare to eat their orders. Rika decides to make it a lively lunch as she asks Kamazuki and Emilia how they both know Mau, the mystery man. The kimono warrior describes him as a neighbor she gets along with, confusing Emilia, who thought she wanted Mau dead as well. When Emilia is asked about Mau, she refuses to answer, leading to Rika assuming he was a crush. Emilia would rather eat a slimy shark than allow that statement go unaddressed, as she immediately rejects that assumption. She explains that Mau is an enemy she hates, then describes him as a useless, good-for-nothing, ugly, slow turd who cared about nobody else but himself. Suddenly, a mysterious voice interrupts her and asks her to take back her words. Emilia is shocked to see Shiro coming after her and asks why he's in a rival restaurant. Earlier that day, Mau convinced Shiro to go undercover into rip-off KFC and get some intel on how they pulled customers. Although Shiro was hesitant due to the cost, Mau pulled a talk no jutsu and got Shiro to go for the task. But when the commander overhears his glorious King Mau getting slandered, he blows his cover. For the first time ever, Emilia maintains composure and bribes Shiro to calm down rather than argue with her. After hearing the hero offer him free food, so long as he introduces himself and Mau to her friend Rika, Shiro immediately sits down. He tells Emilia what he intends to order and introduces himself as Kamazuki's neighbor to Rika. When the coworker asks why Emilia is so intent on keeping other girls away from Mau, Shiro becomes confused. He thinks about it for a bit, then concocts a bizarre story he believes will satisfy the curiosity of the girls. He narrates that he and Mau were once land management workers who competed with a company Emilia worked for. Because they were smaller in nature, they lost lots of contracts to Emilia and became bankrupt, causing a change in location. While building themselves back up, they came across Emilia as well, leading to the beef between the parties. He further explains that Emilia keeps women away from Mau out of fear that he would hurt them as revenge. After he ends his story, Rika eats up every word and apologizes for misunderstanding to Emilia. On the other hand, Kamazuki, who knows their true history, sees the story as utter cow poop, wondering where he thought up the lore. At the Walmart McDonald's, Mau is growing impatient from waiting for Shiro, who is supposed to have provided him some feedback. His co-workers are losing morale as well, forcing him, the shift manager, to give a speech like Irwin to motivate them back to action. He gives them new instructions, then hopes Shiro comes back with news soon. Back at knockoff KFC, Shiro finally becomes time-conscious and decides it's time to give Mau feedback. Rika is eager to meet the amazing Mau as well, so they order takeout and leave Emilia to sort the bill. Minutes later, they arrive at McDonald's, where Shiro informs Mau of everything he knows. After successfully sharing information, Shiro orders some low-budget McBurgers to boost Mau's sales and wishes him the best as he leaves. With his disciple gone, Mau focuses on the uninvited guests in his restaurant, sitting at a table without ordering. He walks up to Emilia and her group, then requests they walk over to the counter to make an order. The girls refuse to, causing an argument about customer service with Mau. He realizes the girls, including Rika, were simply trying to rage-bait him. Luckily for him, Chiho arrives with an order the girls made during the argument, ending the unnecessary chit-chat. After seeing the little high school McWorker, Rika enters a cuteness overload as she grabs Chiho and hugs her tight. She compliments Chiho for being cute, then turns her attention to Mau. She informs him she's been impressed by both Chiho and Shiro, so it is left for him to make an imprint. Although Mau doesn't care about her trashy opinion, he was getting into action anyway. He prepares his first step at winning back the customers and brings out a pack of flyers to counter Walmart KFC and its coupons. However, the plan was unsuccessful, with no customer looking towards their flyers. He switches plans and tries a direct approach of advertising the food to the customers. But once again his plan fails woefully, with customers only seeing Chiho as cute, but not their menu. Rika begins to doubt the glaze Shiro made about Mau and calls him overhyped like One Piece. However, Mau has one more trick up his sleeve as he welcomes in an old man to aid his plan. After getting what he needed, he thanks the old man for his help and then bids him farewell. He revs up his colleagues, then launches his plan to put Walmart KFC back in the bin where it belongs. They attract customers using a tree that appeals to a holiday going on around that time and offer them a free drink for every wish they make. The customers get to hang ornaments on a tree, make wishes, and get refreshments, an idea approved by headquarters. With the new development, low-budget McDonald's begins to regain its dominance of customers, impressing Rika, who could now see what the Mawu hype was about. When Emilia asks how Mawu was able to pull it off, Chiho explains that Mawu fully understands what the customers want. He was able to get the tree from a fellow volunteer at the community service, surprising the hero, who couldn't believe he'd do such a thing. The entire series of events confuses the kimono lady Kamazuki, who continues to wonder what Mawu is driving at. The next day, everything is back to a decent level of normal. Chiho comments about how tough the previous day was, giving Mawu chills as he remembers if he failed, they'd be shipped off to Antarctica. He's snapped out of his thoughts by the manager, Misaki, who informs him of a shift elsewhere. He's still lost in thought, so he didn't get what she said fully. But after she clarifies, he realizes what's up. He's been recommended to help out at a different McDonald's branch close to an amusement park that was launching its grand opening. The Demon King agrees to go, and Chiho offers to volunteer as well. But the manager informs her the branch requested for talented workers, not one who couldn't use a grill. Chiho is hurt, but she comes up with a plan to go anyway. Later that night, Mawu tells his demon commanders about his new mission. They talk about it over a gigantic plate of soba, which makes it seem like they wanted to compete in an eating competition with the cholesterol ambassador landlady. In actuality, it was just one of Shiro's broke guy antics, because their soba was bound to expire. After looking up the amusement park, Lucifer discovers it has one of the scariest haunted houses in Japan. Shiro decides to go with Mawu so he can see how much magic they could regain. Lucifer wants to go as well, but Shiro acts like a strict mother and demands he stay at the apartment to learn more about magic. Their neighbor, Kamazuki, seems to be hearing everything they've said and becomes concerned. Meanwhile, Emilia was on a call with Chiho. The high schooler suggests they go to the park together, and Emilia accepts her request since she'd be free on that day. After the call with Chiho, Emilia receives another from Kamazuki, who brings up the same idea, but this time not for fun. She explains to Emilia that Mawu was going solely to replenish his magic, and she wanted to keep an eye on him. Although Emilia is aware Mawu is going due to work, she understands Kamazuki's concern and agrees to let her come along. On the day of the opening, Mawu is welcomed to another branch of Walmart McDonald's. The new manager informs him she expects good things from him, and Mawu promises to give it his best. At the same time, Emilia and Kamazuki meet up with Chiho at the entrance of the park. They go into the changing room to change into their swimsuits in anticipation of the water park features. When Emilia is done changing, she sees the approaching Chiho and becomes terrified. Although her bazookas were scary enough when she was in normal clothes, they've become even more oppressive for an A-cup wielder like her under the swimsuit. Every look Emilia takes at the monster mounds stuck on Chiho eats her alive with envy. However, she and Chiho are completely dumbfounded by Kamazuki, who pops out dressed like an 80-year-old Asian man on his way to a beach day. Some minutes later, the group arrives at the McDonald's as Chiho steps forward to place their order. She is fishing hard for a compliment from Mawu using her calcium cannons, but the Demon King is totally oblivious. The little lover is disappointed and begins to fade away, forcing Emilia to step up and tell Mawu how dense he is. Once again, the teen Demon King is all about his burger grind and returns to work after giving the girls their order. Meanwhile, at Mawu's home, Shiro, who was supposed to follow him to the park, is now sick. He had eaten too much of the sus soba noodles and could barely stay 5 minutes away from the toilet since he woke up. Lucifer trolls him and uses this golden opportunity to make a mysterious purchase. Back at the park, after eating, the girls try out the haunted house that everyone couldn't stop talking about. They start off their adventure confident, but just minutes into the building, Chiho is already scared to death and runs away. It's one down with 2 to go, as Emilia and Kamazuki continue the spooky trail with their otherworldly pride on the line. Regardless, they come across a cheap rip-off Annabelle doll that scares the living daylight out of them, forcing them to retreat. They all sit shamefully on a bench, thinking about how pathetic they were. I mean, I get why the high schooler ran away, but you'd expect better from this so-called great hero and the kimono warrior. At McDonald's, the manager meets up with Mawu and asks him to make an in-park delivery. The girls decide to try another attraction at the amusement park and come across the reptile exhibit. Emilia and Chiho are hesitant to go because they both have trauma-related experiences with lizards. However, Kamazuki had been gaslighted by a fellow psychopath somewhere in Kyoto that lizards were meant to be eaten. So she decides it's best they take her through it to understand the creatures. They walk around and observe the creatures, sharing information about the different creatures there. At a chameleon exhibit, Amelia is spooked, causing her to lean back and bump into a worker. She apologizes, and both parties go their separate way. However, she accidentally knocked his key ring free. Mao makes his delivery in the park for some staff. This distraction allows a little trained monkey to slip away from his trainer. The little guy moves through some bushes and discovers the key ring. Later on in the park, the girls come across the same monkey, who completely ignores Amelia and hops onto Chiho's over-padded top shelf. They realize it's lost, so they walk around trying to look for its owner. Coincidentally, where Mao had made his delivery, the trainer is now looking for his monkey. The coincidences don't end there, as the monkey's name was Mao as well, leading the girls to assume Mao was missing. They follow the voice and come across the owner of the monkey along with Mao. The man clears up the misunderstanding, and everybody goes their separate ways. Unfortunately for them, there was a lot more to be cleared up, as Mao the monkey this time used the keys he took to unlock the crocodile's cage. While the girls are having fun at the water park, someone screams, leading to a panic, then a full-on stampede. The crocodiles have infested the waters and are chasing after humans. Luckily for them, Mao was nearby to fix up the trouble his namesake caused. He casts a magical barrier to calm the people down, then uses the magic he gained from the fear the people emitted to hypnotize the crocodiles back to their cage. Once again, Mao saves the day, pushing Kamazuki into some serious cognitive dissonance. In the evening, the girls board a train home while talking about how much fun they had. When they reach their stop, Chiho and Kamazuki get off the train and bid Amelia farewell. Suddenly, Kamazuki sees a mysterious white feather with a strange aura. When she looks to the other side of the train tracks, she sees what looks like an angel in a hood staring at her. Before she knows it, the mysterious winged stalker disappears, leaving the kimono warrior in confusion. At the apartment, Mao talks about how much of a success his shift at the new branch was. He explains that although he did regain some magic, he used it just a little while later. When Shiro apologizes for not being available, Mao advises he sees a doctor to help his stomach issues. Just then, the demons hear their doorbell ring. Lucifer attempts to rush over to get it, but his legs give up on him, letting Mao get there first. It's a package, and Shiro begins to rage out like the Hulk. However, luck smiles upon Lucifer before Shiro could react, as he is forced to retreat again to the porcelain throne. In the morning, Shiro is still sick, forcing Mao to take cooking responsibilities. When a delivery comes in, Shiro suspects Lucifer of recklessly shopping again. Nevertheless, when Mao brings the package in, they're hit with a big surprise. Their half-ton landlady spent like Mr. Beast on her vacation, so she needs her tenants to help her sell off the excess. Meanwhile, Kamazuki, who was in the room nearby, recalls her encounter from the previous night. The mysterious angel figure showed itself when she was alone and informed her he knew she was an agent of the church formerly known as the Scythe of Death. In Entei Isla, she had worked under Orba as an assassin who silenced possible threats to the church. The next day, Mao and his demon duo have Amelia, Kamazuki, and Chiho come over to help them sort through the mountain junk their landlady dumped on them. They check out the weird stuff she sent them, including boulder holders known as bras, tiki masks, juices, and some food. Later that night, they have a yard sale, attracting customers and offloading their landlady's crap. During her break, Kamazuki has a meeting with the mysterious hooded angel. He demands she does what she's asked to before Mao restores his power completely. After he leaves, she has a flashback, remembering how the church hid the dirty deeds of high-ranking members. She begins to question her ideals, but before long, she solidifies her resolve and gets to work. Meanwhile, back in the apartment, Lucifer sorts out the records of the goods they had sold. When Shiro increases his lamenting about his sickness, Lucifer forces him to go to a hospital before he dies a most embarrassing death. After the sale, Kamazuki confronts Amelia and Chiho in a private park. She demands Chiho stay away from Mao and informs Amelia she will be killing the Demon King soon. It turns into a heated argument as Chiho refuses to let go of her unrequited love. When Kamazuki calls Chiho a lovesick airhead, Chiho bites back by reminding Kamazuki she fills a B cup.
Well, that's true in a way.
Defeated by Chiho's words, the kimono warrior leaves. promising the two girls that they would lose and Mawu would be defeated. Some minutes later, Chiho regrets everything she said in the fight, but it's too late as Kamazuki is already gone. Suddenly, they're attacked by the mysterious caped figure from nights before who humiliated Emilia in front of a convenience store. He finally reveals his identity as the creepy manager from the dollar store KFC, Mitsuki, and he engages in a serious battle with Emilia. The fight is tough, but the creep manages to defeat Emilia, leaving Chiho defenseless. When she sees Kamazuki, she requests they help Emilia. However, Kamazuki is with the blue-haired freak and knocks out the innocent high schooler. At McDonald's, Mao receives a call from Chiho's mother asking if she was with him. He tells her she isn't, then calls home to ask if she was at his apartment. Lucifer informs him she isn't and uses a tracker he secretly planted on her to find out she's on the move, but in an absurd manner. After getting all he needs to know, Mao grabs a mop and his trusty bicycle, then chases after Chiho's tracker. Meanwhile, in the hospital Shiro is admitted, a familiar bald fraud begins to regain consciousness. Shiro wakes up at the hospital and feels better, so he stupidly decides to ignore the doctor's instructions and gets out of bed. He finds a knocked-out officer and checks if he's still alive, but unfortunately, it was a trap. The bald bastard Orba appears out of nowhere, then knocks him down. When he hears a nurse coming over, he grabs Shiro's hospital card and hides, allowing Shiro to get taken away. He gets the demon's address from the card and smirks awkwardly. Meanwhile, the creepy angel, Mitsuki, is torturing Emilia, demanding she give up her sacred sword. When she refuses, he zaps her and threatens to hurt Chiho as well. Suddenly, he feels the presence of Mawu in the vicinity. He orders Kamazuki to go after our demon dude and finish the job she was sent here to do. The kimono warrior immediately whips out her fat hammer and goes after Mawu. When he sees her approaching, he tries to start a sensible conversation. But Kamazuki only wanted the smoke. She charges at him with her hammer and destroys his bike, making him tear up. But before he could logically question her, she goes after him with the hammer again. It turns into a whack-the-mole game as Mawu jumps from place to place, dodging her strikes. Before she could go at him again, Mawu begins to strip, irritating the kimono warrior. She asks whether that's how far he has fallen, and Mawu explains that the McDonald's uniform he wore wasn't his. Upset that he wasn't taking her seriously, Kamazuki attacks him with the hammer again. It becomes a weird, cartoonish, one-sided fight, ending with Kamazuki dominating. Still, Mawu manages to pull out a secret move Demon Kings before him had never thought of before. He applies Talk no Jutsu and convinces Kamazuki that she didn't hate him, ending their battle in a draw. At the apartment, Lucifer hears a knock on the door. When he opens it, he sees Orba, who comes with another promise of heaven if the young demon helps him again. Back on top of the building, Mitsuki opens up Emilia's shirt. When she screams out "pervert" with Chiho, the blue-haired freak insists that if he was looking for that action, he wouldn't be going for a cup. The girls are creeped out even more by the freak after he utters those words. Just then, Mawu appears in nothing but his undershorts and socks. He warns Mitsuki to cease his attack, or there'd be trouble, causing the freaky angel to laugh. He launches multiple attacks at Mawu and blasts him from roof to roof, playing with the demon like he was a toy. Suddenly, Orba appears as well and drinks a mysterious potion. The sky begins to turn green, and Shiro, who was indisposed at the hospital, rises up like the Undertaker. At the same time, Mawu begins to regain power as well, aura farming as he rises up and returns to his true muscle monster form. The green sky causes fear in the city, refueling Mawu and Shiro with magic. He requests Kamazuki put barriers over Emilia and Chiho as he prepares to smash the living daylights out of Mitsuki. Meanwhile, Orba stands alongside Lucifer and tells him all they had left to do was wait for Mitsuki to finish his mission. The demon informs Orba he is a double agent, and before the old baldy can react, he lands a solid uppercut. He tells Orba it's nothing personal, but he prefers the neat life over staying in a heaven filled with clouds. In the battle for supremacy, Mawu dominates Mitsuki and smashes him through different buildings. He decides to aura farm and goes as far as carrying Emilia to flex in front of the creepy angel. When he is done with the charismatic displays, Mawu becomes the eminence in Shadow and fires an I am atomic, completely defeating the weirdo. In the post-battle euphoria, Emilia and Mawu take jabs at each other, meaning everything is normal again. Just then, Shiro appears, causing Mawu to crash out. He had arrived at the battle scene long after it ended, making it as pointless gets. The next day, Chiho informs Mao she had a nightmare where he bid her farewell and went back to Entei Isla. Mao assures her he can't do that, as he doesn't have enough magic to pull it off. He had used all the magic he absorbed to repair the city and open a gate he sent Mitsuki through. The manager, Misaki, walks in on their conversation and asks Mao why he ran off with a mop the night before. Mao struggles to come up with an answer she'd believe, so Chiho butts in and claims it was an emergency. When the general manager asks how she knows, Chiho struggles to find a good answer. Luckily for them, Kamizuki arrives, claiming Mao saved her and Chiho from a random thug. Suddenly, they hear a loud thud from the back, and an NPC employee rushes in, screaming in surprise. When they get there, the group sees Mitsuki, who was supposed to be rotting somewhere in Entei Isla. They suspect Entei Isla chased him away because they didn't want him either. When Mizuki looks down at the hideous, blue-haired freak in his cheap Greek cosplay, he regains consciousness. He claims she's the most beautiful woman he's ever met and begins to aggressively flirt. His cringe words give her the eek and frighten her, so when he approaches her to go in for a hug, she sidesteps him and stomps on his head, which he is weirdly into. The following morning, Emilia wakes from a vivid nightmare where Mao is powered up and has taken control of the city, with plans to take over the world. The thought of it continues to distract her throughout her workday. When they are preparing to head home for the day, Rika asks Emilia if she is going to meet Mao, but for some reason, the so-called hero prefers Rika uses the term stalking Mao. She goes over Mao's apartment, where she finds Chiho cooking and Kamizuki offering to feed Mao like she didn't try to kill him in the last episode. The girls begin to argue whose food Mao should eat, then ask him to choose one. Fortunately for Mao, Shiro walks in, interrupting the discussion as he asks for some privacy for him and Mao. When Mao asks why, he informs the Demon King that he needs some time off, giving Mao a good idea of how important the matter was. The next day, Emilia calls Emeralda and asks if Shiro had been seen anywhere on Entei Isla. When her friend claims there has been no sign of him, Emilia begins to wonder what could be going on. They had left Mao and Shiro alone to discuss his time off privately, so she has no idea what to expect from the demons. While stalking Mao, she sees the demons order a huge amount of packages, furthering her suspicion. She calls Emeralda again to confirm no funny business is afoot. And just like the first time, Mao and Shiro still hadn't done anything involving Entei Isla. The next day, while the manager is getting creeped out by a gift Mitsuki sent, Mao walks in and requests a change to his schedule. After she gives him the green light, he leaves the restaurant, causing Chiho to confront him. She accuses him of returning to Entei Isla, but the Demon King denies her allegations. The next day, the demon has a new stalker, with Chiho growing as concerned as Emilia about the demon's change in behavior. They follow him around town and realize he's taken a job at a construction site. After he catches the stalkers watching him, they sit down to talk on his lunch break. He explains that they've gone broke after Lucifer blew their budget on trackers. Just after hearing the word tracker, Emilia flips out and begins to rage, charging up her sacred power to destroy the chip placed on her without her permission. The Demon King continues his explanation, informing the girls he has taken on this second job to get them out of the hole, and even Shiro has taken one as well. When Emilia brings up the boxes they received, Mao is confused. They go to his apartment and see Lucifer poorly hiding boxes using a large curtain. After Mao uncovers his secret and threatens a beating if he didn't explain what it was, Lucifer admits he was hit with a Nigerian prince scam. He was bamboozled into purchasing a lot of unnecessary stuff, digging their hole even deeper. They try to get to customer service and return the goods, but the cheeky company uses a foolproof plan to avoid giving refunds. They visit the company physically, finding out it's where Shiro now works. The demon commander explains that there's no way to beat the contract, as his boss, a cocky, muscular man, walks in to spit in the group's faces. He mocks them for falling into his trap, then tells Shiro to send his friends home so they could wallow in their L. The group walks home in disappointment, and Shiro apologizes for not acting as a strict enough guardian to Lucifer. Suddenly, Emilia comes up with an idea to get the demons their money back. She informs them that every purchase made by a child without a guardian's permission required a cooling-off time, so the guardian could return it if necessary. They take advantage of this law and force Shiro's boss to reclaim the mountain of junk. They have the last laugh, as ironically, it's the sacred hero that saves her demon archenemies. The next day, the demons celebrate their win by having lunch at a cheap restaurant. They talk about how crazy different this new world has been for them and how they have become completely new people. When Shiro asks Mao if they'd be returning to Ente Isla, Mao thinks deeply about it but leaves the decision hanging in the air. Will Mao return to Ente Isla to reclaim his throne as the Demon King? Comment low budget KFC to find out. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on the screen to watch some of our other exciting videos. Until next time, stay awesome, stay Anageek.